Good morning, good afternoon, good day. Welcome to my live market meeting 4th November 2020. If you can hear me and see my screen, please let me know using the live chat panel. I'll continue. I am Sagar Nandi. I used to work in IT. I have retired now. I'm swing trading stocks using the Q systems and techniques. This is my email ID, tradingprofitably@gmail.com, my website, sagarnandi.com, YouTube channel Trading Profitably, and Twitter handle Sagar Nandi. I regularly share live market and stock analysis on these channels. They are open to the public and you are most welcome to make use of them. Hi Mike. Disclaimer, I am not an investment advisor. This demonstration is for educational purposes only. It is not a trade recommendation. Trading involves risk. You and only you are solely responsible for the outcome of your trades. This is a live session. I have not prepared for it. I'll use the trading systems that I use to look at the live market, global markets, and then also US markets. What are the systems that I use? I use Q Elite and Q Global for technical analysis. Q Elite runs on TradeStation, Q Global Q Finder runs on MetaStock, and it runs on Zenith or Refinitiv Reuters data. That is what I use for technical analysis. For fundamental analysis, I use Q Vital. For sector industry rotation analysis, Q Edge. And market analysis, for market index analysis, I use Q Index. These systems can be used for not only the USA market, but for global markets as well. That was the last slide of my presentation. Let's continue with the live system. Though we are looking at the market today, after looking at the global markets, we look at the USA market. USA presidential and general election was yesterday. The outcome is not clear yet. At least last I checked the website, the winner is not declared yet. Therefore, at present, the time is not right to take many new positions in the USA market. It's not that one cannot take new positions for swing trading, but one may be careful, take smaller position or hedge the position or take other protective measure so as not to take big risk during these uncertain times. Having said that, no harm in analyzing the stocks using Q systems and see if we can find some trading opportunities. And as is usually the case, I'm pretty certain we'll find some opportunities today as well. We'll do that for the USA market, but first let's have a look at the global market, starting with the Australian index AXJO. As usual, we are looking at it using the weekly and daily at a glance template using Q Global running on MetaStock. If you are listening to my webinars for months now, when I am discussing the global markets, it is like a broken record that they are inside a range, and that is continuing. In one of the last webinars, when AXJO was at the upper edge of the range and it displayed the bear release signals, I mentioned that was the optimal time to take short trades, if not in AXJO, in underlying stocks. That was the right decision because the risk was narrow and it fell from there, went from upper boundary to the lower boundary, giving a substantial profit in any swing short trade you might have taken. Now it is inside a range bound by watermark resistance support and also trendline support resistance. Right in the middle of the range, Q technique suggests not to take any trade at such points. Australian market is continuing to be in a sideways range. What about the Japanese market Topix index? It is also continuing to be inside a range. It's near the middle of the range. Today it closed with a doji indecisive candle in the daily chart. We would prefer not to take any trade at this time. China market CSI 300 index, that was also moving sideways, and that is continuing. No trade here also. UK market FTSE index, it was gradually coming down. In the last webinar, when it went below the lower boundary, I mentioned that if it recovers and then goes down again with a magenta flow candle in the daily chart, that may give a low risk shorting opportunity. It has recovered, but it has not tilted down yet. So we may wait for a bounce down opportunity from the trendline resistance. If that happens, that may give a low risk shorting opportunity. Right now there is no trade setup in FTSE index. India's Nifty 50 index, that was strongest of the global markets, and that is continuing. The weekly is in an uptrend. Daily is also going up. In the last webinar, I mentioned that if you looked at the recent period, then Nifty 50 was bound by resistance trend line and support trend line, so it was inside a range. If you looked at a longer period, it was in a solid uptrend. Also, I mentioned in the last webinar that there were successive bearish headwinds in the weekly chart. However, because the memory support was nearby, I was not going to short the Nifty. That was very useful because price reversed from near the memory support level. If we look at the weekly, it is near trendline resistance. We have no trade setup in Nifty. It is the strongest of the global markets, but if you look at the recent period, last couple of weeks, then it is also starting to move sideways. That was a view of the global markets using Q Global. Let's now look at the two commodities, gold and oil, using ETFs, starting with oil ETF USO. Rescaling the daily chart, that didn't do it. Okay. Let's look at USO using the Q Elite running on TradeStation. If we look at the weekly, it is moving inside a range. In the daily, there is some movement, but no clear direction. Still inside a range, no clear direction, and we'll avoid taking any trade in oil right now. And that is the view I'm sharing for many weeks now, and that view had been helpful in keeping us out of harm's way. Gold, GLD. In the last couple of weeks, it is starting to move sideways, bound by resistance trend line and daily trend line. In the last webinar, I mentioned that if it can break out of the resistance, then we may look for a breakout trade either in GLD or in one of the gold miners. It has not broken out yet, still inside the range formed by resistance and support trend lines, so there is no swing trade setup in gold right now. Now let's look at the USA market using the market ETFs first. As of yesterday's market close, starting with S&P 500 ETF SPY. In the weekend market roundup, though I watched on the internet, many people were bearish. my conclusion was not bearish. Why? I looked at all the market ETFs, I looked at the leading stocks, and I saw all of them were, all or most of them were inside a range, either narrow or wide range, and at the lower end of the range. That was not a place where I can be bearish, because that was not going to give me low risk shorting opportunities. That analysis was pretty useful, because from there, for last 2 days, my last market webinar, market roundup webinar, was as of Friday's close. So on this day, after that, Monday and Tuesday, 2 days have passed, and SPY has gone up for those 2 days. SPY itself didn't have any long trade setup as of Friday's close. However, as is my technique, when SPY is at a support, I start looking for buying opportunities in individual stocks that are fundamentally strong. And I shared some of the stocks during the roundup or on my website sagarnandi.com. All of them did pretty well. As of yesterday's close, SPY went up, but it is inside the range, right in the middle of the range. So we were not going to look for any buy setup in SPY as of yesterday's close. That may be the same for the other ETFs. This is QQQ. It also didn't fall anymore since the weekend market analysis. Went up slightly less than SPY, but went up nonetheless. There is a memory support nearby. Usually that memory supports hold pretty well. It takes a while before price can suddenly drop or go up above them. Dia, again, since my weekend market roundup, very nicely it went up, but no Q trade setup in Dia as of yesterday's close. And the Russell 2000 ETF IWM, again, since my weekend market roundup, it very nicely went up. While the market recovered just as I expected, the stocks or ETFs that I analyzed and suggested there could be a buying opportunity, they did pretty well. One of them was SBSI, a banking stock, regional banks. Great valuation, the industry was starting to improve, and right when it came to the trendline support, I suggested buying. From there, it has very nicely gone up. It has given more reward than the risk, and at least partial profit could be booked yesterday without waiting probably for the election uncertainty to kick in. One could take a swing trade in SPSI based on my analysis or based on your own Q analysis, of course, and that gave a profitable trade. Another trade idea that I suggested was in STX, and I suggested that as a kind of bounce setup because price dropped sharply and suddenly stopped right at the not only daily trendline support but weekly trendline support and went up on this day. The traffic light color had changed to neutral yellow from bearish red. That was the buy point right at the close of that point. Stop would be just below the trendline support. This was the risk distance, and by yesterday's close the reward is much more than the risk distance. Again, at least partial profit could be booked. You can see whatever be the market situation, when you are taking trades using the Q360 degrees analysis, they're doing overall pretty well. The chance of getting stopped out is much lower because we are looking at the market, looking at the sector industry, looking at the fundamental and technical. We are looking at many things, but it is not taking much time. I also suggested and I did buy a position in KRE. This one I used options and later on the ETF. Let me explain the trade again. The first day when I suggested the trade was on this day. I shared it in the traders forum. During the day, price was going up, but at the end of the day, it pulled back, closed lower. I already took a trade using Q fine-tune intraday chart during the day, and I used ETF at that time. Actually, I used the synthetic stock position, not the ETF itself. I used synthetic stock position, shorted the put, and bought the call. However, when I saw at market close, it was pulling back, I made it a kind of covered call. So I kept my synthetic long position. I added a short further out of the money call leg. Then I was watching KRE. By the way, as I explained in the last video, I bought distant expiry. I traded it in two accounts. In one account, I bought December expiry. One account, I bought January expiry. So I had enough time in my hand. After I opened my position, it went up for a few days and then pulled back. Then on this yellow candle, it gave me a very bullish shape candle and a reversal candle, kind of reversal candle. Looking at that, I closed my short call leg. I booked some profit in that. I held on to my synthetic long position. From there, as I expected, price went up sharply. Why did I expect that price might go up from here? Because it was in an uptrend by that time. It had created higher low, came to the yellow direction line and went up sharply from there. And the industry was very strong. Because I was expecting it to go up from there, that's why I booked profit in the short call leg, out of the money short call leg. And it indeed went up, created an indecisive candle at the top, and next day during market hours I could see that the bearish headwind was forming. That was the time I closed my short put leg and also closed part of the long call positions. By doing that, I got all my money back plus some extra profit in the account. I held on to some of the call legs. Then price went down and went up again. I had a profit in the remaining legs also as of this day. That was Friday's close. So I booked some profit. The trade was guaranteed risk free. I was holding a number of call option legs. Those were on the house money. I didn't have to pay for it, and that was also in a profit as of Friday's close. And as I mentioned in the weekend market roundup, I also bought some ETF. This time didn't use the synthetic structure. I just bought the ETF, some more on this day. That was very useful, isn't it? Because on Monday and Tuesday it sharply went up. Yesterday it went well above the upper boundary level. So one could book partial profit on the position taken on this day, on Friday. What was the Q trade setup on Friday? That was a Q go with flow, trend following, long trade setup. All the trade ideas that I shared in last couple of days or maybe couple of weeks, mostly they were on the long side. And though many people were concerned, if you check my videos or the forum posts, almost all, if not all of them, made a profit on the long side. That is the power of the Q systems. I looked at some more stocks. Let me explain them. TMST. This is a stock that I also shared in my traders forum. I had taken a position in it and the position is in a significant profit. How did I identify and take the trade? the steel industry was doing well. You could look at Q edge in real time and find that out. And the material sector was starting to do well as well. And this stock came down heavily in this area, but then found support and was starting to go up with higher high, higher low. It had trendline support in the daily as well as weekly. Then I noticed on this day, after earnings, it initially tried to go down, but very nicely recovered and closed above the yellow direction line. However, it had an upper tail. Also, if I change the template where the historical memory resistances are shown, you may find that there was a trendline resistance right at the close. Technically, it just closed above the resistance. However, it had an upper tail. I took a small position on that day itself, and next day near the open using fine-tune chart, I added to the position. I had a significant profit. It's a low price stock, so it had a significant profit. In fact, on this day, that was Monday, the stock went up by 20%. And I could confidently take the trade because it had excellent Q memory trend line support, automatically drawn, extremely smart trend lines. If you are watching it, you know that. It had excellent support, and after earnings, it went up very nicely from that support. Tried to go down and went up. That was even more bullish. So I took a trade in this and I profited from that. And TMST's fundamentals were also strong. Just like SB, SI I discussed earlier, regional banks, its fundamentals were strong. KRE was ETF. That industry was strong, and STX, that fundamental was also strong. Another stock that I am tracking now is UCTT, and you may find similarities between these ideas I am sharing either in the webinars or in the website posts. They are having many similarities. Q charts are not very complicated. We don't even have any histogram. We don't have to look at convergence, divergence. We don't have any indicator parameters. No parameter is to be set. We don't even have any threshold to compare. That is this above 80, below 20. We don't have anything. We just look at the color coded charts, dots consistently coded, cyan, green, bullish, red, magenta, bearish, yellow, neutral. Just look at it and intuitively decide what is to be done. We rely a lot on support and resistance like the watermark support resistance and memory trendline support resistance. Watermarks are pivot levels, memories are trend lines. They have zero lag, and these are very smartly calculated, I think, but you may validate that. They work pretty well, and because of zero lag, we are able to catch the trades earlier. Maybe just at the right time, or maybe one day before others are noticing it, sometimes quite a few days before others are noticing it, if you are using extreme reversal signals like headwind reversal signal or the bounce setup. Now UCTT, why it came to my notice is that it also has trendline support both in weekly and daily. And another thing that works very much in favor of taking a long trade is after earnings, if the stock turns down, finds support and goes up from there. That is what happened here. This was related to earnings. It opened higher and closed lower, tried to go down for one day, stopped right at the trendline support. Very next day it went up, changed traffic light candle color from red bearish to yellow neutral, had a bull release signal as well, and there was heavy activity before the bear release signal, sorry, the bull release signal came. So if you were watching, you could take a long position in UCTT pretty confidently on this day itself and put stop just below trend line support, very narrow stop. You would be aware of the trend line resistance, but you would also know, because your risk was so small, by the time it goes up to the trend line resistance, you would have significant profit. And exactly that is what happened. Within one day, it has covered more than the risk distance, and if you are a short-term trader, you could easily book profit. Now also, if it breaks out of the trend line resistance, you may find a trade setup that will be using Q breakout trade setup. What trade setup could you use on this day? That would be a bounce trade setup, or it could be a box trade setup also. Technically, you could take the trade at Monday's close with extremely narrow stop. Now, when I suggest a trade or I take a trade myself, I try to align forces from technicals with fundamental and industry. Let's look at UCTT's fundamentals. UCTT. I am checking the fundamentals using Q Vital. It is a semiconductor equipment industry stock, or you may say semiconductor equipment and testing. Great fundamentals, isn't it? Just like the Q charts for Q Vital fundamental analysis tool also, intuitively, instantly almost, you are able to say that is it strong fundamental stock is or not. That is what I saw. Didn't take even 2-3 seconds. Great valuation, great secondary valuation, robust earnings quality, short squeeze potential, fantastic earnings growth quarter after quarter, even revenue growth for the last 3 quarters. Even yesterday, it was very strong. The industry, 93% of the 30 peer stocks went up yesterday. Fundamentals are looking very strong. How is the industry? I'm clicking the cog icon to check the industry out from QH. Semiconductor equipment industry, relatively it has weakened little bit over last few days. If we see the alternative industry though, in this case, the relative strength is there. It is pretty strong relative to other industries. Why did I check the alternative industry, industry 2 in this case? Because I studied the stock. You may look at the business description to see is it appropriate to check the industry or alternative industry to see whether the industry is relatively strong or not, and it appeared closer to semiconductor equipment and testing, not semiconductor equipment. So I checked the Q edge. Relatively, the alternative industry is pretty strong. Now, though the industry, semiconductor equipment, relatively is not so strong, it looks. Why it looks like that? Because the color is not so bright cyan yesterday or 2 days period. But if you look at the percentage change, the semiconductor equipment is still going up. Relatively, it may not be the best, but it is robustly going up. Semiconductor equipment is for many periods. And the alternative industry percentage, yes, that is also going up robustly. So industry was strong, fundamentals were great. Technically, it gave a very low risk entry opportunity. That is what I call a Q 360 degrees trading opportunity, buying opportunity, and I like to take them when I am bullish on the market. And that was what I discussed in the market roundup, and this trade also, if you took it, it gave a good profit. We could apply the same technique every day in real time, in fact, because all the tools, of course, the technical analysis tools, either Q Elite or Q Global, fundamental analysis tools, and sector list rotations, everything is run in real time, true real time, not 5-minute delay, 10-minute delay. You can run it in full streaming mode also. We look at some stock buying opportunities today also, but let's look at the higher level picture first. The market is continuing to be not bearish in my view. Same view that I held during the weekend market roundup. What about the sector? In the weekend market roundup, I showed that at that time, the monthly period was still bullish. In the middle, there was some weakness, and it was starting to improve over 2 days, 1 day at that time. And now, if you look at that, the improvement has certainly kicked in. Yesterday, very bullish. Last 2 days, very bullish. Over 5 days also, it is now bullish. So I could remain bullish during the market roundup, and I could profit from the trades without worrying about what others are telling or what media is telling. Again, I shared mostly only long side trades in last couple of weeks. Sector level is very strong. Yesterday, all the sectors went up. If we take a step back and look for a longer term period, yesterday 11 out of 11 sectors went up, and if we look at last 2 days period, again 11 out of 11 sectors went up. Materials doing pretty well. That is where I found the stock TMST. Infotech is also doing well. STX was there. Financials doing pretty well. I shared the ideas on KRE, SB, SI, etc. What about if I take an even longer term view? Now over 5 days it is bullish. 9 sectors up, 2 down. Over 10 days it is balanced, and over 1 month it was bullish earlier also, it just became more bullish. And look at financials. It is one of the strongest over 1 month period and continuing to go up over multiple periods. I first shared about KRE buying idea, I think about 1 month ago. So you could probably buy it well ahead of others. My market view is not bearish now, neutral, and the sector level is very bullish as you can see from QH. What about Q Finder? Q Finder is kind of unique tool that shows the balance between bears and bulls using all the Q indicators. Some of them are unique, some of them are standard technical analysis. Q Finder looks at all these Q signals and tries to find the balance between bears and bulls. I run it using the weekly interval as well as daily interval. This is the weekly interval. The week is not over yet. It is as of Tuesday's market close. Today is Wednesday, pre-market hours. It is very bullish across all the categories. All signals, 95% of Q signals are bullish. Strength signals, 96% bullish. Trend continuation, 95% bullish. Even reversal signals, 94% are bullish. Isn't it great that during the market roundup, weekend roundup, I could analyze the market and think of taking only long positions, and that was the view I had earlier also. That played out in a very nice way. The Q Finder weekly is very bullish, covering the last 2 days of the current week. And if we look at the Q Finder daily period, that is yesterday's market close, that is also very bullish across all the signal categories. In fact, this is what I shared in the last webinar also. And when all the data is showing that there is no reason to be bearish, Q traders would prefer not to take short trades. That worked out very well. Same view I am continuing with, bullish rather than bearish, because sector level is bullish. Finder daily, Finder weekly, bullish. And the market ETFs are neutral, you may say. What about the market internals? I shared one analysis in the market roundup using market breadth. And I mentioned that in the market breadth analysis, and let me take a step back just to explain for the people who are new here. This market breadth is looking at Nasdaq Composite Index and NYSE Composite Index, not the market ETFs that are narrower, not the market futures that are narrower, but the broad Nasdaq and NYSE Composite indices along with market internals, new high low, advanced decline, up down volume on both sides. In the weekend roundup, I mentioned that the abnormality was only in terms of the advanced decline, sudden drop in Nasdaq, and also up down volume somewhat. And I also mentioned after looking back that those initial sudden drops in the past several times, 3 times in fact, didn't lead to a downturn in Nasdaq. Therefore, though the broad composite index came down, I was not going to be bearish. That was useful. The broad composite index went up from there. The week is not complete yet. And of course, the NYSE composite index has also gone up. Now, if you look at the market breadth study here, you can see that the down move in advanced decline for Nasdaq has already been made up. This was for the whole week, and the last bar for advanced decline is only for Monday and Tuesday. It has more than made up the last week's drop. The same is true for NYSE also. The up down volume also turned up, new high low turned positive again. Of course, this is Tuesday's close. The week is not over yet. The picture may change by the end of the week, but what I am explaining that if you take a few moments to study the charts carefully, just one signal down day is not going to throw you off balance. When was there a sustained down move in Nasdaq and NYSE? That was after the indices had bearish headwind signal, and prior to the drop in Nasdaq, the advanced decline was actually negative for a long time, though the market was going up. That is how the internals can help us being ready for a down move in the market. In this area, the advanced decline turned negative early to before mid December 2020. The index was still going up. Not until after the bearish headwind came, it actually dropped. So we had plenty of time to be prepared, looking at the negative market breadth here, and the negative market breadth was also in NYSE. This analysis, looking back analysis, helped me not to be so bearish a couple of weeks ago. Of course, now the election result is going to come out that may continue the uptrend. It may break out of this sideways range in NYSE. It may break out of this memory resistance in Nasdaq, or it may come down. We don't know, and that's why we may be careful. We may still take some long positions. I think there is no reason to look for short positions right now unless we look at the futures and see it is very much down. Let's look at the S&P 500 E-mini futures. The last bar in the daily chart is for the overnight market, and it is up. It is up by more than 66 points, so there is no reason to be bearish. Let's now look for some trading opportunities. How am I going to look for it? I may do a top-down analysis looking at the sector scores, look at the strongest sectors using the color codes. then drill down into the industries and fundamentals and so on and so forth. Or I may do a bottom-up analysis starting with Q Finder, an extremely powerful tool. I looked at it earlier. The daily Q Finder is bullish, weekly was also bullish, so I'm going to look at buying opportunities. I come to the bullish tab and I see plenty of stocks went up yesterday by more than 10 percentage points, and there are many other stocks that went up by 9, 8. So very bullish day yesterday also. Here you are looking at all the important Q signals like bullish or bearish pressure. This is the bullish tab. So this is bullish pressure, bullish gap up, bullish breakout, pull back to support and going up from there, go with flow. That is the Q trend following long setup, touching trend line support, memory support, bouncing up from memory support, bullish headwind, possible reversal signal, box sideways, long setup, and a reversal setup or reversal candle. If you are a longer term investor, you may also use the price extreme indicator. If you like to buy at really low prices, you may filter by color, red color. These are at price extreme or pendulum low. And you may see several of these pendulum low, price extreme low stocks are also going up. Those will usually give you the best buying time for longer term investment, and those could of course also be used for short term trading. So for longer term investment, if you are trying to catch the stocks at a lower price, you may first filter with price extreme low. Some people like to buy for long or short term, but they like to buy at price extreme high, like 52-week high, and then breaking out. If that is your style, and that may also be for longer term investment like IBD style investing, you may filter by color again, but this time you will filter by color on the extreme column, price extreme high. These are at a very high price level, and then you will look for breakout. You may double click and you may see lots of stocks are also going up from price extreme high breakout setup. Those are typical high growth stock trading technique used by IBD investors. You may do either or both. So what I may do for my own trading, I am comfortable with trading at the high, at the low, doesn't matter, so long as I have a Q trade setup technically and I find a stock that is fundamentally strong in a strong industry. Now from Q Finder, you can see the orange cells are showing lot of signals coming in these stocks, and the column here is showing the cumulative number of Q signals. You may look for the stocks giving maximum number of signals, open them first, or you may look for the stocks going up by biggest percentage, look at them first. Or if you have a certain preference, like you like to take breakout trades, you may sort by breakout by double clicking on the breakout column and look at them first. If you want to combine breakout with memory bounce, you may come to breakout column first, flag it, come to bounce, flag it again, and you see one stock is breaking out after bouncing. So it is breaking out of trendline resistance and it already found trendline support. You may do all this kind of combination analysis using Q Finder. It is a great tool because you can look at the price extreme column and filter it for stocks at high price level for breakout trades, IBD style, low price level, buying fundamentally strong stocks, usually value stocks, undervalued stocks at a low price level, or you could also buy momentum stocks in the price extreme middle. Importantly, it is not only showing today's signal, the orange color cells, but also green cells, yesterday's signals, blue cells, this week's signal, previous 5 days, and also prior to that, the light gray and dark gray. Usually I look at only the orange cells to find today's signal and then see if there was a signal yesterday or this week. From here, I could open the charts or I could go to the fundamentals first. For now, let me just look at the stocks that went up yesterday by more than 10%. I simply dragged and selected the stocks by the percentage change column because that was my basis of selection. I could do similar drag and selection based on anything that is my focus. In this case, my focus was percentage change, so I simply dragged and selected them, and I'm going to click the chart icon to open them on Q Global or Metastock. If I wanted to open them on Q Elite on TradeStation, I would click the grid icon. Let me use Q Global on Metastock now. And I didn't do this before. Let's see if we can find some buying opportunities. Again, keeping in mind that the election time is not the best time for taking too many new positions. The first one that comes up is VAPO, Vapo Thumb, and this looks like a nice setup to me. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to close it. I'm going to keep it so that I can analyze it further using Q at a glance template, that is weekly, daily, and also look at its fundamentals and industry strength. I'm going to keep it, so I'm going to shift to the next stock by pressing Ctrl tab. This is strong MATX. However, it is not my style to buy a stock that is going up already so much. However, other traders may buy it. What kind of traders? Who look for a staircase pattern. This stock went up, formed a sideways narrow range base, and then yesterday broke out staircase pattern and strong stock breaking out of range. That's a valid trade setups. Not my technique, but that's a valid trade setups. So others may look at it. I'm going to close it. CHS, Chico's Fashion. This could be a stock to consider if you are looking to buy a stock at price extreme or pendulum low. Let me keep it. I will look at its complete analysis later. SNDX, Syndex Pharmaceuticals. It broke out of trendline resistance after finding memory trendline support. However, it has an upper tail, so I'm not going to buy it as of yesterday's close. At least let me close it because I find other attractive stocks already. VNE, Veoneer Incorporation. Yesterday it gave a bullish flow candle, but I think we could buy it one day earlier itself. If you are running Q Finder every day, you would have found it on this day itself, and you would buy it based on a pullback setup probably, which also had a trendline support and had a bull release signal. You could buy it 2 days ago, and in one day you had covered more than the risk distance, provided we had a signal in VNE one day ago. Did we have it? I don't know. Let's look at Q Finder. Remember, Q Finder gives signals not only for today, it also shows signals of yesterday or during the week. And we were looking at VNE, this stock. Let's highlight the row. It is at price extreme high. What are today's signals? That is yesterday, as of yesterday's close. It went up with high bullish pressure, had a gap up move. It had a go with flow long signal. That is yesterday. And indeed, on Monday, that is one day earlier, it gave a pullback setup. So you could buy it using the pullback setup one day earlier, this day itself. And you have already covered risk distance, you could book profit. It is a bit late for my style to buy it now. I will avoid buying. I would have already booked profit here. Next stock, HALO, in top but at upper boundary with upper tail. Not my style to buy this kind of stock, so I'll close it. BLNK, Blink, charging. Looks interesting because it broke out of trendline resistance, one of them. There is one more nearby. I will wait for the second trendline resistance to be broken. So I am closing it. Workhorse, WKHS. This is looking interesting because it had multiple headwind reversal signals and then a bull release signal. However, it is too much in a downtrend. As of yesterday's close, there is no trade setup. Let me close it. RYAM looking good inside a range near the lower end of the range and gave a bull release signal yesterday. However, there was no bullish pressure or high volume, so I'm going to skip it. Next stop, CLSK, Glens Park. That's also looking interesting. It came to the white direction line, then stabilized with a bullish headwind signal, went up, and yesterday gave a bullish flow candle. I have mentioned earlier, when a stock moves down, gives a bullish headwind, then the next bullish flow may give a low risk buying opportunity. No standard Q trade setup. There is no checklist for it, so I'm going to close it for now because I already had several other opportunities. If I didn't find other trading opportunities, I wouldn't mind looking at a stock like this and investigate it further, but I already have several other buying opportunities, so I'm going to close it. BE, Bloom Energy, yesterday closed with an upper tail. Otherwise, it is giving a box sideways market at double bottom buy trade setup as of yesterday's close. If it goes up today above yesterday's high, that may be a box long setup buying opportunity. I'm going to close it for now. Apps, digital turbine. Again, the bullish headwind could catch the very low 2 days ago. That was the best time to buy it because it also came to the yellow direction line and found support when it displayed the bullish headwind. Yesterday it had a bullish flow. The question is, one day earlier, was there any trade setup in Q Finder? Let's check that out. APPS. Where is APPS? Yeah, here, APPS. Today's signals: high bullish pressure, gap up open, pullback setup, trend following, go with flow setup, and see yesterday, that 2 days ago, in fact, Monday's close, it gave a bullish headwind signal and a box long trade setup. So we could again buy it, find it first of all using Q Finder and buy it on this day. And it has gone up significantly since then. That was the optimal time to buy it. Not when it was falling, but when it found support at the yellow direction line with a bullish headwind signal. Yesterday it also went up strongly with bullish flow and I can see bullish pressure. But I would have bought at the right time, not waiting for yesterday. So I'm going to close it. DBD, it has multiple trend line resistance, so I'm going to not buy it now. Close it. IT, Gartner, has a breakout setup, however with a long upper tail. I'm going to skip it. Very strong up move yesterday. This stock ANET, but stopped right at trendline resistance. If you didn't have the memory trendline resistance, you might be tempted to buy it. But once you have the Q systems and you see the trendline resistances are there, you would most likely avoid buying it. So I'm going to close it. Back to our first stock, DBI, breaking out, at price extreme low. Let's look at it using weekly daily at a glance template. Let's using Q Elite so I can switch back and forth between the platforms. DBI designer brands. The weekly is bullish, has a bull release signal, and also the flow color is bullish. Shape is bullish. In daily, it displayed a bull release signal with high bullish pressure, high volume, and broke out yesterday. So if you are looking for a breakout setup at price extreme low, then it is giving a breakout setup at price extreme low. When the breakout happens in a stock in a downtrend, I wouldn't take the breakout unless it is accompanied by bullish pressure or very high volume. Those are present yesterday, so it is giving a breakout setup that I would not mind taking. Let's check its fundamentals. DBI. Look at the fundamentals using Cube Vital. While it is retrieving data from Reuters, let me check out its industry. I can click these navigation buttons to switch back and forth between charting, sector industry rotation analysis, and fundamentals analysis. DBI, this stock belongs to apparel retail, and a single glance tells you that it is very strong in recent periods. And looking back, it was very weak earlier, so this may be a good time to buy. Just like you could find KRE earlier, you may be able to find good apparel retail stocks right now. That's what the industry scorecard and heat map is telling us. So industry is great, improving. What about fundamentals? Again, one glance tells us it is undervalued. No earnings growth, but that's okay. We don't expect value stock with earnings growth all the time. In Q technique, we are looking for either great valuation or great earnings growth. In this case, it has great valuation, robust earnings quality also, and a short squeeze potential. In itself also, the industry is very strong. Yesterday, 97% of the 30-year stocks went up. So this is giving a valid breakout trade setup. Fundamentally strong stock in terms of valuation, short squeeze potential, and industry is strong. That is how we may find trades almost every day. Let's look at another one, OCYH. This is already gone up so much. So, okay, close this one. This one, no trade setup, close. INSP shoot up a lot above upper boundary. Let me close it. I'm not going to buy it now. VAPO. Okay, let's look at VAPO also. VAPO, VAPO, looking good on the daily chart. Let's look at it using weekly, daily at a glance template. Great again. The weekly is moving sideways. However, the backdrop color has turned bullish for 4 weeks. When the weekly was magenta, it dropped sharply, then it stabilized, the backdrop color turned neutral, and for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks now it is moving in a narrow range in weekly with bullish color. Then you may be getting ready to buy it. And yesterday you could have probably bought it. It's not breakout candidate yet, but if it can grow above this watermark resistance in daily, that will give a breakout trade setup. Looking at the memory support here, multiple memory supports below, you could probably take a small position, exploratory position yesterday, and add to that if it can break out today. That will be a breakout from a narrow range kind of setup, which is supported by trendline support. And yesterday also had bullish pressure. Let's check its fundamentals and industry strength. VAPO, I think VAPO.K. Okay, healthcare equipment industry. Let's check the industry score. The relative strength is not strong. Alternative industry also, relative strength is not good enough. Though if you look at the absolute strength, it is going up. So it allows us to buy absolute strength going up by good percentage over 1 day and 2 day both. It was stronger earlier also. So the industry score and percentage change together allows us to buy the stock. Industry is accepting buying a stock in the industry. Let's look at the fundamentals. Here we don't have a value stock, but we have a growth stock. Valuation is not great, but it has excellent earnings growth. Again, a short squeeze potential, great revenue growth. You can see itself the industry is pretty strong. 88% of 85 stocks went up. That's why you can combine, that's why and how you can combine the relative strength with absolute strength. Absolute strength you find from Q Vital and also from the industry percentage, alternative industry percentage. Relative strength you find from industry score and alternative industry score. So VEPO is giving a possible buy setup at a low price level at a base. Let's look at one last stock before ending today's session. CHS. Going to weekly daily at a glance. CHS. Excellent. Excellent. I found it from QFinder as a breakout candidate with bullish flow, but now I can see it is also breaking out of the weekly trendline resistance with bullish backdrop. Yesterday had high bullish pressure, so it is giving a valid breakout trade setup. What about its fundamentals? CHS. Apparel retail. We already saw the industry was strong because the stock that we checked out earlier was also in the same industry. We may check out again. The industry apparel retail we already saw is strong, allows us to buy. Let's check the fundamentals. Here the fundamental is not as great as the other apparel retail stock we found. Neither excellent valuation, not great earnings growth. So I will rather choose the other stock that we found. That is how in any market condition you are able to find 360 degrees opportunities where forces from market level, sector, industry, fundamental, technical, all are aligned, and all you need is a couple of mouse clicks and use the intuitive visual systems to tell you what to do. And if you don't find any trade setup, that is good. That is a key way of telling you that it is better to stay out of the market. Let's end today's session here. We are at the 1 hour point. Thanks a lot for attending. Keep in mind that election related uncertainty may kick in, so if you are taking new positions you may be cautious. I look forward to seeing you in our next session. I expect to have that during the weekend, the market roundup. Have a great week, keep safe and trade profitably. There is no reason not to do so, as I say, if you are using a disciplined technique to trade. Thank you, take care, bye bye.